Researchers completed the first human genome sequence.
The Y chromosome's sequence remained a mystery.
Cro-Magnon DNA is forcing scientists to question the very foundations of human evolution.
His Y chromosome didn't match any known category.
The question that changes everything. Have you ever wondered if the story of humanity we've all been told is incomplete? If the timeline of our origins, the neat charts in textbooks, and the family trees of evolution are only fragments of a much bigger, older truth? For centuries, scientists have believed they knew roughly when modern humans began. Fossils, stone tools, and DNA models seem to agree. Humanity, Homo sapiens, emerged around 200,000 years ago in Africa, then spread across the world. But every once in a while, a single discovery appears that doesn't fit the pattern. A fragment of bone, a tooth, a strand of DNA that whispers, "Look deeper." In 2013, one such whisper turned into a scientific earthquake. A man named Albert Perry, who lived an ordinary life in South Carolina, passed away. Nothing about his life suggested he would shake the foundations of human history. But hidden in his blood was a code, an ancient message that defied everything geneticists thought they knew. When scientists analyzed his Y chromosome, they realized it was unlike any they had ever seen. It wasn't just old, it was ancient, more than 338,000 years old. That single piece of genetic evidence opened a doorway into the unknown, forcing science to re-examine how humanity began, who our true ancestors were, and whether other lost species once walked beside us. The discovery. Albert Perry's DNA was first tested through a commercial ancestry service. Like many Americans, he wanted to trace his family roots. When the results reached the genetics lab, something immediately looked wrong. The computer algorithm couldn't categorize his Y chromosome. It didn't match any known branch of the human genetic tree. Most human males share a common ancestor through the Y chromosome, a single genetic father sometimes referred to as Y chromosomal Adam. This man isn't a biblical figure, but a genetic milestone, representing the point where all living male lineages converge. Scientists estimate he lived around 200,000 to 300,000 years ago in Africa. But Perry's DNA did not fit anywhere in this tree. His lineage split off long before Y chromosomal Adam. When researchers compared his genetic code to thousands of known samples, the result was staggering. It pointed back 338,000 years, a time long before anatomically modern humans had even appeared in the fossil record. For a moment, scientists thought it must be an error, perhaps contamination, a faulty test, or a miscalculation. But further studies confirmed it. Perry's Y chromosome wasn't modern. It belonged to a lineage that had survived, somehow untouched for hundreds of millennia. This wasn't just an ancient genetic signature. It was a living fossil inside a human being. The genetic time capsule. To understand why this discovery is so extraordinary, we need to grasp what the Y chromosome really is. Every man inherits his Y chromosome from his father, who inherited it from his father, and so on. It's a biological time capsule, changing only slightly with each generation through small mutations. By comparing these mutations, scientists can reconstruct family trees that stretch deep into prehistory. Think of it as a molecular clock. The more mutations that separate two lineages, the longer it's been since they shared a common ancestor. When scientists used this method on Albert Perry's sample, the clock didn't just tick, it broke. His lineage was older than any previously known Y chromosome, older than the oldest known fossil of Homo sapiens. This suggested one of two possibilities. Either 1. Perry's ancestors descended from a previously unknown population of archaic humans who had survived in isolation. 2. Or his lineage represented the result of ancient interbreeding between modern humans and another, now extinct species that diverged far earlier. Either explanation forces us to rethink what we mean by human. Africa's forgotten branches. For decades, Africa has been called the cradle of humanity. But what Perry's DNA hinted at is that Africa wasn't just the birthplace of modern humans. It was a vast, complex landscape where multiple human-like populations coexisted and evolved in parallel. Geneticists soon began searching for similar lineages. They found them, not in Europe or Asia, but in the remote forests and savannas of West and Central Africa. Among certain groups, particularly in Cameroon, they discovered Y chromosomes closely related to Perry's. This was the A00 haplogroup, the oldest known human Y DNA branch. It represented a lineage that split from all other humans around 338,000 years ago. That's tens of thousands of years before the fossils of the earliest Homo sapiens, and nearly twice as old as the Neanderthal modern human split. These findings suggested that Africa's genetic history was far more tangled than anyone imagined. Instead of a single origin, there may have been many. Different groups, some modern, some archaic, may have lived, mingled, and exchanged genes long before one branch eventually became us. The mosaic of humanity. The traditional story of evolution paints a clean picture. One species replaces another. But DNA tells a messier, more beautiful story. The human family tree isn't a straight line. It's a web, with branches that twist, merge, and vanish. Evidence from across the world supports this view. In Siberia, a child's finger bone found in Denisova Cave revealed an entirely new species. The Denisovans, a group that interbred with both Neanderthals and early modern humans. In Asia and Oceania, millions of people today still carry Denisovan genes. In Africa, new research shows that our ancestors may have interbred, not just with each other, but with at least 3 other archaic populations that left faint traces in modern genomes. What Albert Perry's DNA reminded the world is that isolation was never absolute. Human evolution was not a single spark of creation, but a long, slow-burning fire, one that spread, merged, and reignited countless times across continents. The shadow ancestors. So who were these ancient people whose DNA lingered for hundreds of thousands of years? Some scientists suggest they were an archaic Homo species, relatives of Homo heidelbergensis, or even an earlier form of Homo erectus. Others propose they were early Homo sapiens who diverged long before our known lineage and somehow survived in small, isolated communities. What's astonishing is that traces of these shadow ancestors still live on within us. Studies show that up to 8% of the African genome may come from these ancient populations. Unknown humans who left no fossils, no tools, no names, only their genetic echoes remain. Imagine the scenes 300,000 years ago. Groups of early humans living side by side, sometimes competing, interbreeding, leaving behind fragments of their code in the next generation. Over millennia, the record of their existence was erased, except in our DNA. When we look in the mirror, we're not seeing one species' story. We're seeing the sum of many forgotten worlds. Challenging the timeline. Perry's discovery also challenges how we date the origin of Homo sapiens. If this Y chromosome predates the earliest known fossils, then either our species emerged far earlier than we thought, or modern humans were just one of many overlapping forms. Recent fossil discoveries support this idea. In Morocco, the Jebel Irhoud skulls, dated to around 315,000 years old, show a mixture of modern and archaic traits. In South Africa, fossils of Homo naledi suggest another species of small-brained humans lived as recently as 250,000 years ago, possibly coexisting with early sapiens. The line between us and them blurs. Humanity appears not as a sudden appearance, but as a slow unfolding, where ancient lineages blended over time. Perry's DNA is not an anomaly. It's a surviving witness of that blending. The Great Genetic Puzzle. If ancient DNA can rewrite history, what other secrets might it reveal? Scientists are now sequencing genomes from ancient remains around the world. Each new sample adds a piece to the puzzle. Neanderthal DNA has been found in all non-African populations. Denisovan DNA exists in Melanesians and some East Asians, and mysterious ghost lineages have been detected even in West Africans. Traces of humans never yet identified in the fossil record. Albert Perry's case showed how one person's genome could expand our timeline by 100,000 years. Imagine what could happen when we sequence millions more. The human story may reach back not just hundreds, but millions of years, weaving through species we haven't yet named. What it means for us. Beyond science, Perry's discovery reshapes our sense of identity. It reminds us that race, nationality, and borders are recent inventions. Under the microscope, humanity is one tangled thread, stretched across time. Every cell in your body carries whispers from people who lived through ice ages, migrations, droughts, and fires. You carry the strength of survivors, inventors, explorers of forgotten tribes, and nameless ancestors. The deeper we look into DNA, the more we realize that difference is an illusion. Diversity isn't separation. It's evidence of connection. Perry's Y chromosome doesn't divide us by proving someone older or more original. It unites us by showing that we all share deeper roots than we ever imagined. The expanding frontier. Science never stops asking questions. After Perry's Y chromosome was identified, researchers launched global projects to trace ancient haplogroups and build more detailed genetic maps. They discovered that human ancestry cannot be contained within simple labels. Populations once thought to be isolated, like the Khoisan peoples of southern Africa, carry some of the most ancient and diverse DNA on Earth. Meanwhile, even regions long believed genetically uniform reveal hidden layers of history. Each discovery rewrites a small part of our story. And yet, the more we learn, the more complex it becomes. The 338,000-year-old mystery wasn't the end of a debate. It was the opening of a new era in genetics. Echoes from the distant past. Let's step back in time, 300,000 years ago. Africa is green and vast. Rivers wind through grasslands where early humans hunt and gather. In the highlands of Cameroon, perhaps a small group lives in isolation, generation after generation, their genetic line passing quietly forward. They do not know that one day their descendants will live in cities, use satellites, or search their genomes on a computer. They do not know that their DNA will outlast their language, their culture, even their bones, but it does. And that's the miracle of genetics. It preserves not just life, but memory. Every mutation, every variation is a timestamp, a story written in molecular ink. Albert Perry's DNA is not an anomaly of nature. It's the voice of those who came before, whispering across 338,000 years. We were here too. The broader implications. This discovery doesn't just change science, it changes philosophy. It challenges the idea of a linear, progressive evolution and replaces it with a web of coexistence. It suggests that humanity's true strength has always been diversity, not just of culture, but of biology. It also reminds us how fragile our knowledge is. For centuries, history was written by what could be seen: fossils, bones, and artifacts. Now we're learning that much of history was microscopic, hidden inside us all along. As genetic technology advances, the boundary between history and biology blurs. Each genome sequenced is another archaeological dig, one that takes place not in soil, but in cells. The mystery continues. Even today, scientists are unsure where the A00 lineage began. Was it born in West Africa? Central Africa? Did it represent a completely separate branch of Homo long thought extinct? Some researchers believe there may still be undiscovered populations, descendants of these early lineages, living in isolated regions, their DNA holding more ancient clues. Others think we may find evidence of these mysterious ancestors in fossils yet to be unearthed. The truth is, Perry's discovery may be just the first chapter of a much older story. Every time a new genome is mapped, the family tree of humanity grows broader, wilder, more intricate. The neat diagrams of the past are being replaced with a living, breathing forest, one that refuses to stay still. Lessons from the code. What can we learn from a discovery this old? First, that science is never finished. Theories are not monuments, they're stepping stones. Perry's DNA didn't erase what we knew, it expanded it. Secondly, that identity is deeper than appearance. Our shared ancestry stretches beyond nations, beyond races, beyond recorded history. And finally, that humility is essential. The more we uncover, the clearer it becomes how much we don't yet know. For every mystery solved, two more emerge. The story of human origins isn't a closed book. It's a library still being written. The hidden truth within. When you think about your own DNA, it's easy to imagine it as something private, invisible, yours alone. But in truth, it's a thread that ties you to everyone who's ever lived. You share genes with kings and farmers, artists and warriors, strangers on distant continents, and perhaps, somewhere deep in your code, a whisper from an ancestor who lived hundreds of thousands of years ago. That's the hidden truth about human origins. It's not a single place or moment. It's a tapestry of encounters, adaptations, and miracles of survival. The 338,000-year-old DNA mystery is proof that our story is deeper, richer, and far older than we dared to believe. The continuing search. Around the world, scientists continue to collect and study DNA from ancient bones, cave sediments, and living populations. Each sequence opens a new window into time. They've learned that genetic lineages can disappear and reappear, that migrations happen in waves, and that small, isolated groups can preserve ancient traits long after others vanish. More Albert Perrys may exist today, people carrying fragments of forgotten species within their cells. And one day, another test might reveal a lineage even older than his. That's the beauty of discovery. There's always another layer waiting beneath what we think we know. Our place in the story. So where does this leave us? If humanity's roots stretch back beyond 300,000 years, if our genomes hold traces of other species, and if our ancestry is more mosaic than linear, then perhaps the real story of evolution isn't about replacement at all. It's about connection. Each generation inherits not only DNA, but curiosity, the drive to understand who we are. The 338,000-year-old Y chromosome isn't just a scientific fact. It's a reminder that our search for origins is also a search for meaning. The unfinished map. We once thought we had mapped the human family tree, but Albert Perry's discovery tore open new territory, vast, unmapped, ancient. The tree became a forest, and the forest stretches into darkness. Somewhere in that darkness lies the next revelation, waiting for another scientist, another clue, another strand of DNA to light the way. Perhaps the ultimate truth about human origins is that there is no single origin, only evolution itself, endlessly branching, endlessly discovering itself through us. As we close this story, imagine the arc of human history, hundreds of thousands of years compressed into a heartbeat. Civilizations rise and fall. Languages appear and fade. And through it all, the code continues, passed from parents to child, unbroken. Albert Perry's ancient chromosome is part of that continuum, a reminder that beneath the surface of modern life flows an ocean of ancestry. Every breath you take is shared with countless generations before you. When you look at the stars, remember, your DNA is as old as the light that reaches you. You are a living record of time. Science thrives on questions. The story of the 338,000-year-old DNA mystery began because someone asked one simple question. Where do I come from? That question changed everything. It showed us that the past isn't finished, that discovery doesn't end with a fossil or a theory. It lives inside us, waiting to be read. So the next time you wonder about your origins, remember Albert Perry and the unseen ancestors who carried humanity's code through ages of darkness and dawn. Because the greatest discovery of all isn't that we come from ancient DNA. It's that in every one of us, the past is still alive. Stay blessed and stay curious.